you should try it because it's good for you. And if you never do hard things, you'll never do anything. You'll never conquer anything that you want to do unless you face your fears.
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here. Hey guys, Marissa here. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Digital Nomad Family Podcast. And today is going to be a really fun, maybe, I don't know, we'll see, it's up to him, episode. I am talking with my oldest kiddo, Martin, as he's known here in Latin America. So we're going to talk today, but before we get into our topic, I want to direct you to the last episode where I talked about our experience in Monteverde, Costa Rica, climbing trees, and I told a little story in there about something called a free fall. There's a good chance that could come up today. I'm not 100% sure, but if it does, and you have not heard me talking about that yet, go back to the previous episode where I talk about tree climbing in Monteverde, and I talk a little bit about it. I explain it because I'm not sure how much we're going to get into it here, but just wanted to give that little shout out about that. And also, last episode was just cool. It was a really fun experience climbing those trees, and I really think if you are in Costa Rica with kids that are at least 5 foot tall, you should climb the trees. Martin's laughing. Why are you laughing?
Because the trees are very hard to climb. And you gotta have long enough arms to reach.
Yeah, you really do. You really do. It was hard for Stoyanka and Ryan a couple times just because of their smaller wingspan. So yeah. But today, what Martin and I are going to be talking about is it's kind of a big topic, and there's a lot to it, but we'll try to keep it small and fast and not super complicated. Are we going to complicate this, Martin?
No.
Do you like complicated things?
No, I do not.
He is a typical 16-year-old boy. As we were getting ready to record this, I'm telling him, okay, here's how you have to hold the mic, and you must open your mouth, because if you have a teenage boy living with you, you know that this is how they talk most of the time, and it's like, hey, Mom, can I get a pop? And then you're like, what did you just say? Well, I was just wondering if I could go over to the tienda and get some chips. And you literally have no clue what he's laughing because he knows it's right. You know I'm right.
Yes, my mom is right.
He's cracking me up. So what we're going to talk about today, as Martin opens his mouth, is facing your fears. And him and I were talking about this a couple days ago, and we've been talking about doing this episode for a while now. I feel like he's shaking his head. It's been, I don't know, probably 5 months that we've been talking about recording this episode.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. I think we talked about doing it in Mexico.
I think so, yeah. So we are going to talk about facing fears, and we have kind of divided it into 2 different types of fear, if you will. And these are not, don't be offended by my words, because they're just made up categories, if you will. The first we're calling, and we're going to put quotations around it, so quote unquote real fears. And those are like the physical things, like going skydiving. That's a very physical thing. Diving with great white sharks. That's a very physical thing. Doing a physical challenge, or even if it's not like a physically hard thing, but actually doing something that the majority of people would say, yes, that's scary. That's what we're going to call, quote unquote, real fears. The next category of fears is more like emotional fears. And these are things that it might be scary to me, but it's not scary to you. And this can change from person to person. And maybe what I think is scary now, maybe in 5 years, I won't think it's scary anymore. I'll have done enough things and now I feel brave and that isn't scary to me anymore. But at a point, it was scary to me. So those are kind of the two categories of fear that we're going to kind of talk about. And I'm just going to ask Martin some questions and get his take on this topic as a teenage boy, and specifically as a teenage boy that is traveling around and is having to do different things in different countries with and there's not like that consistency of when we were in the United States and it was like, well, this one thing is scary, but maybe I'll maybe like a roller coaster. You think a roller coaster is scary, but you're like, oh, well, I'll do it next time we come to Busch Gardens. And like you have that like buffer or you have that protection. Now you don't. It's like it's either do it now or you're probably not going to do it again. And that's like a big thing. So we're just going to I'm just going to ask Martin some questions and we're going to do it like interview style, if you will. So Martin, which is harder for you to face? A real fear, something that most people would say is scary, or an emotional fear, like something that is scary maybe just to you? Maybe no one else thinks it's scary, just you do. Which of those is harder for you when you have to face them?
For me, honestly, real fears are scarier.
Okay.
Because like I never want to do skydiving.
Okay.
That sounds so scary. And
Yes.
I don't trust parachutes.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't trust parachutes. I don't trust those little pieces of cloth that come out of a backpack. So and I know we'll kind of talk about this in a little bit, but have you ever had to face a real fear like that? Like a real thing that most people would say, yeah, that's scary.
Yes. It was here in Costa Rica.
Dun, dun, dun.
Was the free fall.
Yeah.
For me. It was very scary. And I had to do it first because my brother changed his mind when we got to the top.
Yes. Again, I kind of go through all this story in the last one, so we won't replay it. We will make you go listen to the last episode, but we'll talk about it being scary. What about that experience was so scary to you? Was it being the first one to do it, or was it actually just doing it? Like, would you have been just as scared if I would have gone first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I would have felt a little safer if someone went before me. But I'm really glad I did it.
Okay. So it all worked out well. You're here, you're alive. But as you were standing there looking backwards, because we had to jump backwards off this thing, right?
Yes.
As you're standing there looking at Jason and he's going, okay, hold right here. And then I'm going to, what did he tell you that he was going to do?
Push me.
He did. He said, I'm going to give you a little push. It was very overwhelming, I felt.
Yeah, it was. I was like, push me. Why? And then he was like, because so you don't hit the edge when you jump off.
He just wanted to make sure we were far enough out. Yeah. But as you're standing there, what was going through your mind? Like, can you remember anything? Like, what was just happening in your head?
Well, I was thinking, if I don't do this, I'll never get the opportunity of doing it again. So, I faced my fear. I told myself I can do it, and I did it.
Nice. Were you? Because some people. And I think this is okay. Like, not everyone in our family did the jump, and that's okay, because they have this. The fear is just so great, right? And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like when I was 11, there's no way I would have done that. None whatsoever. Not even when I was 11, I wouldn't even have climbed the stairs to go up to that thing. Like just the idea of looking at it, I wouldn't have done it. But when you are doing this hard thing, are you more concerned about how you're going to feel after? Like if I don't do this, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. Or are you more concerned about getting hurt or if something bad happens? Which of those would you say, or is it kind of even? Like you're concerned about feeling disappointed if you don't do it and you don't want to get hurt? Or are you mostly just concerned like, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it?
I think mostly if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. And I won't be able to do it.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of fear that you were going to get hurt when you did the jump?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I thought I was just going to go straight down and that rope. But I was okay.
Yeah. He's here. He's safe. And now having done this experience, this free fall, what you say is like one of the scariest things. How do you feel about yourself?
I feel very proud of myself for doing it. And I would definitely do it again.
Nice. Cool. And so, that's something that we would classify with our classifications of as a real fear. Most people are going to look at this thing and go, yeah, that's scary. And maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't, and that's okay. We're not here to judge people if they don't do something that they think is scary, because I think that's just silly. Why judge someone? There's stuff I don't do that I don't think I would ever go jump out of an airplane with a parachute. Like I don't trust parachutes. Okay, so that kind of goes, if that's the hardest real fear, can you think of an emotional fear, if you will? Like maybe it was scary to you, but after you did it, you were like, oh, like each time I do this, it gets easier. Or maybe it was scary to you, but not scary to someone else in our family. Can you think of an example of something like that?
Yes. I was a little nervous swimming in the Amazon River.
You were, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I thought something in the water would just come and, bite you, or
Yeah.
like a alligator.
Yeah. An Amazonian alligator. I mean, it could happen. It could happen. And I would definitely say that was more of an emotional fear, because are you usually afraid to swim? Like, are you afraid of water?
No.
So it was just the fact that it was the Amazon River.
Yes.
And would you say that your imagination contributed to you being afraid?
Yeah, definitely.
How so?
Well, in my head, I was thinking of bad things that could happen to me, and that was hard.
Yeah. What would you say is harder to face? Something like jumping off for a free fall, where it's a very real thing, it's a very physical thing, versus something that your imagination has made you afraid of. Maybe there's nothing scary at all. Which of those would you say is harder to deal with?
I think the free fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
The situation where something actually really could go wrong.
Yeah. And there's a high chance things could go wrong there, but there's lower chance of you getting bitten by something in the water because we had guides with us, but I was still scared.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I'm the kind of person, I am more afraid by my imagination. So I have a harder time with the emotional fears because I allow my imagination to go crazy. And I've always been this way ever since I was a little kid. If there's like even the idea of something scary, my imagination will take it and like blow it up like a balloon and make it seem even bigger than it actually is. And then like it's almost like I convince myself that I'm right and that bad thing is going to happen. So I think some people have a harder time dealing with emotional fears, and some people have a harder time dealing with the physical, like the real fears. So I think that's interesting. What would you say that you like to face your fears? Because some people, they kind of enjoy it. They kind of like to push themselves in that way. They go, oh, like, I'm going to force myself to ride this roller coaster because I'm afraid of it. You know what I mean? Would you say that you like to face your fears, or are you naturally the kind of person who's like, I'm afraid of that, I'm going to just stay away?
I like facing my fears because that's very important for me. Because if I don't face my fears, I'll never be able to do the things I want to do.
It might keep you back.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you see it as a form of getting stronger, moving towards the things you want.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. Do you think you've always been that way, or is that something that you've learned to become that way?
I always been that way, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Even as a little boy?
Yes. I try to face every fear. Not the skydiving.
Not the skydiving. If you guys ever see an Instagram picture of Martin going skydiving, you know he's been abducted by aliens and he's possessed somehow. And because it's not actually him, because there's no way this kid is putting a parachute on his body. It's just not happening. So as you think about facing fears, is there anything that you do to get ready? Like to deal with having to do something that you're afraid to do?
Well, I tell myself I can do this. And yeah, I do it. I go for it. And then afterwards, I feel really good about myself.
Yeah. As you're getting ready, as you're thinking about it, do you ever, when you were getting ready to do the free fall, or when you were getting ready to go swimming in the Amazon and you had those fears, do you think back to other times that you conquered a fear, or are you just focused on this one right now in the moment?
I'm just focused on this one right now.
Okay. You don't go back and remember other times. You're just nope, this is the fear and I'm going to deal with it right now in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's good. I think some people are very focused like that. And then I think there's other people who maybe go through a list of one time I did this and I was okay. Another time I did this and I was okay. And some people are like, I'm just going to deal with this one right now. So, and I think everyone's different that way. I'm definitely the kind of person who, if I'm doing something that's scary to me, I try to remember something similar that I've done. You know, when we did the free fall, I was telling myself, you've done really big roller coasters. I don't know why, but that just made me feel better. It's not compared to a roller coaster whatsoever. You know what I mean? It's not the same. But in my head, that made me feel better. You can do this. You've done Griffin at Busch Gardens. You've done Finnegan's Flyer. I was remembering going to Six Flags in Mexico City, and riding coasters there. And I was like, you can do this because you've done that.
Yeah, and that's important.
Yeah. Reminding yourself of other times you've conquered fears and you're still alive to do the next one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that let me ask this question. What advice would you give to another 16, 15, 17-year-old boy who maybe is listening to this, and maybe he knows his family's getting ready to go do something? They're traveling, maybe they're in Central America getting ready to do something, and he's nervous about it. It's just, he is not looking forward to it. Maybe they're getting ready to go out on a boat, or maybe they're getting ready to do some whitewater rafting. That's my big thing. My kids know there is no way I'm ever going whitewater rafting. Martin's smiling. I don't know how many times I've said this in my life. The idea of whitewater rafting, just thinking about it gives me a stomach ache. That's how afraid of whitewater rafting I am. And maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe that's giving it too much power. Maybe I shouldn't say I'll never do it. I don't know. But sitting here right now today, I'm never doing it, and I'm okay with that. So like maybe there's a teenage boy and he's getting ready to go whitewater rafting and he is terrified about this. What advice would you give another teenage boy about facing fears?
I would say go ahead and do it. And if you really don't want to do it, then you don't have to. But I would say you should try it because it's good for you. And if you never do hard things, you'll never do anything. You'll never conquer anything that you want to do unless you face your fears.
That's wisdom right there, kid. That's wisdom right there. I guess here's, this isn't something we discussed before recording this, so it's not on our list of questions, but you'll be able to answer this. Do you think it's right for parents to force their kids to do something if they are really afraid of that? Like, this is a conversation we have, I think, a lot in our family. Like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, right? Like, we talk about this a lot. But at the same time, I like to push you guys. I like to encourage you to push your own limits, but I'm never going to make you do something. Do you think that that's good? Do you think parents should make their kids, just be honest. Like, if you would disagree with me, that's totally fine. But like, do you think parents should leave it 100% up to the kids? Do you think they should push them a little bit, or do you think they should make them do something even if they're absolutely terrified to do it?
I think parents should encourage them to do better because it's important to push yourself just a little bit more because when you do it, you'll feel great about yourself.
Yeah. What if you were to come to me and say, Mom, like maybe we were getting ready to go horseback riding. That's something we've kind of talked about doing here in Costa Rica. What if you came to me and you were like, hey, Mom, I've thought about it. And the idea of riding a horse up a volcano, I'm super uncomfortable with. I've seen people ride horses. I've seen people be thrown from horses. I've seen how powerful horses are. And that is something I just don't want to do. I have zero desire to do it. Please do not make me ride a horse. And what if I said, I don't, not that I don't care, but I don't care, you're going to ride the horse. How would that make you feel?
Don't make me feel like you don't care about my safety and what I think, but you just you care about only yourself and yeah.
So would you say that it's okay for parents to force their kids to do scary things, or they need to have maybe a longer conversation about it?
I do not think parents should force their kids to do anything, but I do think it's good to encourage them to do things.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like, especially as a mom of a 16-year-old boy, it's a hard balance for me because there's things that I see and I'm like, oh, Martin should do this. But I don't want to ever force you to do something, But I also want to, like you said, encourage you to face your fears, encourage you to push yourself. And I think that's a really hard balance sometimes. And I feel like our family does it well, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you think? Do you feel like Dad and I do an okay job of balancing, doing hard things, but allowing you guys to speak into it? Or do you think we kind of tell you, no, you're going to do this?
I think you guys do a good job of telling us what to do, but not you have to do this. You just encourage us to do it.
Yeah. I remember when we were in the Amazon rainforest, I will say this, the one time that I forced you guys to do something and I knew all four of you were very uncomfortable, and I knew this was the very first night hike we went on in the Amazon. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Would you say that you were uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew all four of you were. I knew you were. And I think if I'd have given you the option that night, like, hey, do you want to go on a night hike? Or do you want to stay here and maybe play some games? I think, oh, there's a really loud motorcycle outside. I think a couple of you would have chosen to stay at the cabin. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I still would have gone, but
Yeah, I think you would have.
I'm
not convinced all four of you would have.
Yeah, I think Ryan and Riley would have stayed.
Yeah. Steph
back.
might have pushed herself. It's hard to say with her.
Yeah.
She changes herself so quickly. It's just, you never know with that one.
Yeah. She did the free fall.
Yeah.
And which surprised me. I did not think she was going to do it.
No. And so looking back now, knowing that I pushed you guys, knowing that I knew you were uncomfortable, do you feel like I made the right choice, that Dad and I made the right choice in taking you guys on that very first night hike? Or do you think we should have given you guys the option?
I think it was good because even though we were scared, we did it and we were alive. So that proved that the guides knew what they were doing and where we were.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a good idea for like me to take you on a night hike. That would not have been a smart idea. We had a guide. So when I say we went on a night hike, yes, it was us being led around by Eddie and Segundo, who were fantastic people. But yeah, I think for me that was a hard moment because I knew you guys were uncomfortable. I knew all of you were feeling scared. And as we were hiking around, and it was so funny, guys, I have an episode coming up in the not too far off future that's going to talk about our time in the rainforest and go into detail of what we did there. But this very first night hike, you would have thought we went miles into the jungle. I mean, you would have just thought, like, with the way the kids were, like, it was very tense. Like, they were all very quiet. And my kids are not quiet. Martin's quiet, but he's the only one. The other three are not quiet. But I mean, oh my gosh, these four kids were so quiet. They stayed so close to us. You would have thought we were 17 miles into the jungle. Like, it was hilarious. We wake up the next morning and I point over to where our night hike, I'm going to just put it in quotes, night hike was. And I go, hey, you guys see that over there? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, that's where we were last night. And they were like, no, we weren't. We were so far in. We were so much farther. And because your imagination was playing tricks on you, right?
Yeah. We were super close to our cabin, but in our heads, we were super far and lost.
Yeah, they were convinced that we were lost. And I was like, guys, if you would have just like turned your head to the right, like you could see the light in the, like coming from the lodge area. But yeah, the kids, I think all of you really faced a fear that night. And I would say that was probably a time I didn't give you guys the option. I don't feel like I did, at least. I feel like I just said, okay, put your boots on. We're going to go on a night hike. And I kind of said, this is happening. I don't think I was a jerk about it. Do you? No,
I think, I don't think you guys would have said, okay, let's go do this if we didn't have activities at night to do.
Yeah, it's not like I would have just been like, hey, let's go walk in the woods, just us six.
Yeah, we just had to go because that was our activity with our guide at night.
And that wasn't the only night hike we went on. That was our first, but then we went on a couple others. Would you say that each time you got less scared and by the end you were like comfortable with it, or were you just as nervous each time?
I got comfortable with it. Okay. I knew where we were and I knew what the guides were doing.
And you trusted them, right? Like you had been with them now for like 7-8 days and you were like, oh, I trust them.
Yeah, they were very nice. Segundo, he was awesome.
He was. I can't wait to share more about this with you guys. We also had another scary thing happen, and I would say the night hike thing was more of like a a mental scary thing, right? Like an emotionally scary thing. But we actually had a very physically scary thing happen while we were in the Amazon rainforest. And that was a swarm of bees. A swarm of bees did come after us. And I felt like that was a very real, scary moment.
Yeah, that was very scary moment for all of us. But when the bees sting us, it didn't hurt because they were different type. Mm-hmm. So you didn't feel as much pain.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bad.
No, like they were like they weren't like stinging bees, they were biting bees, and so they didn't like put any venom in you, so it didn't hurt once they stopped. But we just hear Eddie yell, "Run." And like I think that was a combination of a real fear and an emotional fear for me, because like it was scary physically, like, oh my gosh, are we all gonna get swarmed by these bees and what's gonna happen? It was like an episode of Something Bit Me. Like if you guys don't know that show, do we watch that on Disney? Is that a Disney one?
I thought it was Netflix.
Oh, maybe it's in Netflix. Now, see, I don't remember. Look either on Disney Nat Geo or Netflix for something called Something Bit Me. You really shouldn't watch it if you're going like anywhere. If you're going anywhere, you just shouldn't watch this show. This is a show you watch when you're just going to stay in your house. But it was like an episode of that. And then it got really scary. And I think that was a really good example of like us as a family being able to support each other in something scary, because all 6 of us were scared, I think.
Yeah, we were all scared. Even our guide was scared.
Yeah, I think so. I think all of us were scared, and that was a good opportunity for us to like depend on each other and be there for each other in a scary moment.
Yeah, and my sister Stoyanka and Ryan, they had long hair, so bees got into their hair. Yeah. But we were able to get them out.
Yeah, it worked out. Everyone was fine and safe, and we went back to the lodge after that to just rest, and we ended that adventure right then. We just said, because all 4 of you were ready to get back to the lodge. You didn't want to be in the woods anymore. Am I right?
Yeah, we were done.
Yeah, you were done, which I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to be done because of, but that was a very real, scary thing. So I guess my last question is, having talked about all these scary moments, some were scary, like in your head, like swimming in the Amazon. It wasn't physically dangerous whatsoever. You had a life vest on to just like, hang on to. We didn't have to wear the life vest, but we could like just use them as like a floaty. So like we had floaties. There were no dangerous animals there whatsoever, but your brain had told you, hey, this is dangerous, so you need to be scared. And then there's other real, like actually dangerous, scary things that we've done, jumping off of huge platforms into on a free fall, bees chasing you, real scary things, night hikes, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say doing scary things is worth it?
Totally. Yes. It is scary, but after you do it, you laugh about it and say, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when we did the free fall, I just kept looking at you all afternoon and just being like, I can't believe we did that. Like, that's all I could say was, I can't believe we just did that.
Yeah, it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do the scary things, push yourself, figure out why you're afraid, and have conversations with your parents about it, right?
Yes, that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that was my last question, Marty Mart. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really think that this is going to be helpful to other traveling kids, as maybe they're doing some scary stuff in their world adventures too. Yeah,
I hope this episode help other teenagers like me who face their fears.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Martin. It was good. I really appreciate it. So that's it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed my talk with my oldest son there, Martin. I think he is a pretty great kid. I love him. I love doing scary things with him because he is the person in our family that if he does something, I have to do it. I don't know if you guys have that dynamic in your house, but it's like if Martin does it, I have to. It's kind of like become a thing. I think what started it, before I even close out this episode, I think the thing that started it was the fish eyeball.
That's what it started.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because we were in Istanbul and they brought out a huge fish to us. And he asked if he could eat the eyeball. And I said, yeah, totally. Like, they won't serve it if you can't eat it. I was like, yeah, you can eat it. And he goes, if I eat it, will you eat the other one? And I think that's what kind of started this whole thing between us. This whole, if you do it, I have to do it. And man, sometimes I don't like it. Guys, you have no idea how much I was hoping he didn't jump off that platform the other day. Like, I was like, if he doesn't jump, I don't have to. But if he jumps, I got to do it. So yeah, but he is that person in our family. So I am so appreciative that he's my son and that I have that person, that we kind of tease each other about it. But man, we make some good memories this way. Yeah. So okay, well, with that, guys, I hope that you are all doing well. I hope that you are pushing yourselves out of your comfort zones and doing some scary things while you're traveling this world. I think that's an awesome thing about traveling, is we can face our fears in very different ways. One time it might be a night hike in the Amazon. One time it's doing crazy things in the cloud forest in Costa Rica. Maybe another time it's doing something else on a mountain. Like, it can change. Swimming different places, just doing all these crazy things, facing our fears and growing as people. So I hope that you guys found some value out of this. And as always, I hope that you continue to travel joyfully.